Hey there! You know that feeling when you're telling a story and you have to suddenly hit pause and say, oh wait, before that happened? Well, today, we're going to master the grammar that solves that exact problem. We are diving into the past perfect tenses, your secret weapon for telling amazing, crystal clear stories.
So, let's think about this. You're talking about something that happened yesterday. But to explain why it happened, you need to talk about something that happened last week. How do you do that without making a complete mess of your timeline? Well, that's exactly what these tenses were invented for. They're like a little time machine built right into your sentences.
Check out this classic example. The streets were wet. Okay, simple, a fact from the past. But the next part gives us the deeper past. It had been raining all morning. That little phrase instantly tells us the rain happened before you saw the wet streets. It's that kind of layering that takes your storytelling from good to great.
All right, let's kick things off with our first tool, the past perfect simple. Now this one has a very specific job, and it's all about actions that are finished and done. The magic word here is completed. Seriously, burn that word into your brain. This tense is like putting a big red done stamp on an action. It's saying this was 100% finished before this other thing in the past even started. It's all about the result.
And the best part? The formula is so easy. It's just your subject, I, you, she, they, whatever, the word had, which never ever changes, and then the past participle. I had finished. She had left. They had eaten. It's clean, it's simple, it works every time. Okay, picture this sentence. My arrival? That's in the past. But Sarah's departure? That happened even further in the past. That little phrase, had already left, makes the timeline perfectly clear. Her action was totally finished before I walked through the door. The grammar itself tells us we missed each other. Pretty cool, right?
Okay, so the simple form is for things that are done and dusted. But what about the stuff that was still happening, the action that was in progress? For that, we needed sibling, the past perfect continuous. Now we're shifting our focus from the result to the journey.
With this tense, the focus does a complete 180. We don't really care if the action was finished or not. What we care about is the process, the duration. We're painting a picture of an ongoing activity that was happening right up until another moment in the past.
And again, the structure is a piece of cake. It's just the subject, followed by had been, and then you tack ing onto your main verb. I had been working, he had been running, we had been waiting. That had been ing is your signal for an ongoing past action.
This example is just perfect. Why was he tired? The reason is all about that long process. He had been working all day. We're not focused on what he finished. We're focused on the hours and hours of effort that led to him being so exhausted. This tense is all about the why behind the feeling.
All right, now for the main event, putting these two head to head. Because once you really get the difference between the simple and the continuous, you've pretty much cracked the code. Let's do this.
Now, I love this analogy. Think of the past perfect simple as a camera taking a snapshot. Click. You get one single image of a finished result. The past perfect continuous, though, that's like hitting record and capturing a video clip. It shows you the motion, the process, the action as it was happening.
And this side-by-side says it all. Look at the first one. Paul had translated the article. Before midnight, the job was done, finished. Paul's probably celebrating. But the second one? Paul had been translating the article. Whoa, totally different story. That tells us he was in the middle of the work at midnight. He was likely still going. So you see, the tense you pick literally changes the outcome of the story.
Let's try another scenario, because it's not always about finished versus unfinished. Sometimes it's about when you got the information. So, allow me to introduce you to the garage story.
Okay, feel the difference here. First story. They told me to pay in cash. This means you arrive and then they drop the bad news on you. It's a problem. But in story number 2, they had told me. That means the information came before you arrived. You already knew. You came prepared. No problem. It's the same situation, but the tense changes your entire experience.
Here's one last really useful distinction. The simple form is fantastic for counting things. She had written 3 tests. You can almost see them. 1, 2, 3 separate, completed tasks. But the continuous form, that describes one long, draining activity. They had been writing tests. Doesn't feel like 3 things. It feels like one endless marathon of test-taking.
Okay, you're doing awesome. To really get this down, let's just quickly cover a couple of common traps people fall into. If you can sidestep these, you are golden.
So here's a big one. Sometimes people overuse these tenses. While it's not technically wrong to say he had been waiting, if the timeline is already obvious, it can sound a little clunky. Often, a simpler tense like the past continuous, he was waiting, sounds much more natural. The lesson? Don't overcomplicate things if you don't have to.
All right, now for a rule you absolutely have to know. This one's a big deal. There's a special class of verbs out there that just, well, they play by their own rules. We call them stative verbs. So, stative verbs describe states of being, not actions. You don't actively know something in the same way you actively run, right? It's just a state you're in. Verbs like want, need, like, love, know, believe, they're all in this club. And the number one rule of this club is they hate the ing form.
And here's that rule in action. Saying he had been wanting just sounds off. It's because want is a state of verb. The correct, natural way to say this is with the simple form. He had wanted to buy a new computer. So when you're using one of these state verbs, just always default to the simple form.
So, let's wrap this up with a question for you. What had you been doing right before you hit play on this? Think about your answer. You see, you were doing something, and then you started watching this. By just answering that question, you're using the tense perfectly. You've totally got this. Keep practicing, and you'll be a storytelling pro in no time.